Number 9. Shanisha Taylor. Arizona woman Shanisha Taylor left her 2 young children in her SUV on a hot day so that she could attend a job interview on March the 20th of 2014. The interview at a Scottsdale insurance agency lasted for over an hour and had gone well for the 35-year-old, who at the time was struggling to provide for her children. Upon returning to her 2006 Dodge Durango, Taylor was met by the authorities, taken into custody, and charged with 2 counts of felony child abuse. Her 2 sons, aged 6 months and 2 years, were taken to the hospital after temperatures in the car had risen to a reported 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but they hadn't suffered any injuries. A bystander had called the police after seeing the baby in the car crying and sweating profusely. News of her arrest spread from Scottsdale to the rest of the US, as did her mugshot, which showed Taylor with tears rolling down her cheeks. While some were enraged by her actions, others were touched by her story, and a crowd-sourced fundraising campaign gathered $115,000 for her. She spent 11 days in jail and was released after a Good Samaritan posted her bail. Taylor pleaded guilty to 1 count of child abuse and was sentenced to 18 years probation. Maricopa County prosecutors agreed to drop the charges against her provided she attended a diversion program and used the campaign money to set up trust funds for her children. The original prosecution was reinstated, however, after she'd missed 2 deadlines to contribute money to the trust funds. Number 8. Laura Browder. In 2015, a single mother was arrested in Houston, Texas, for leaving her children at the Memorial City Mall food court while she was attending a job interview. Laura Browder had brought lunch for her children aged 2 and 6 at a McDonald's before leaving for her interview, which took place about 30 feet away from them at a nearby Starbucks. Bystanders then saw the children crying and contacted the authorities. When Browder returned to the food court after reportedly accepting a job offer, she was taken into custody and charged with child abandonment. The young mother would explain that she didn't have time to find someone to watch them due to the suddenly scheduled interview, but insisted that the children had always been in her line of sight. Browder also feared that the arrest might hinder her employment opportunity, but the charges against her were ultimately dropped. Number 7. Fatal fitness test. In December of 2012, a tragic mishandling of job applicants for South Africa's regional KwaZulu-Natal Traffic Police Department resulted in several deaths and hundreds of hospitalizations. The country has had a high unemployment rate in recent years, and consequently more than 150,000 men applied. Of them, over 34,000 had been sent text messages telling them they'd been shortlisted for the job. They were split in 2 groups on 2 different days so that they could take their fitness test at Pietermaritzburg's Harry Gwala football stadium. To meet the requirements, they had to complete a 2.4-mile run within 30 minutes. What followed was a chaotic event described as horribly disorganized by one of the participants. Over the course of 2 days, tens of thousands of applicants showed up at the stadium, which was isolated from food and drink shops, for what were only 90 available jobs. By the time that they got their turn, many applicants had to run on an empty stomach, severely dehydrated, and in temperatures of 93 degrees Fahrenheit, with the sun beaming down on them. 230 collapsed from heat exhaustion, and 6 of them died. A 7th man, out of desperation, took his own life by slitting his throat when he didn't make the required time. The politician responsible for setting up the mass job interview offered an arguably callous confirmation of the incident, claiming that the young men could not cope with the weather conditions. Number 6. Hini Humorin. Nigerian woman Inayobong Umarin, also known as Hini Humorin, was last seen on April the 29th of 2021 as she was heading to a job interview. A few days prior, the 26-year-old woman from the town of Uyo had tweeted out that she was desperate for employment. A friend who'd learned that she'd gone to an interview in the Airport Road area then reported her missing. The hashtag #FindHiniHumorin was created, and social media users began investigating the circumstances of her disappearance by reviewing her public online conversations. It emerged that Humorin had spoken to a man later identified as Uduak Frank Akpan, who'd claimed to have a job for her as a secretary. He'd lured her to his house and abused Humorin prior to killing her and burying the body in a shallow grave. 20-year-old Uduak had gone into hiding after being named as the woman's murderer, but was ultimately apprehended and confessed to the killing. Number 5. Helena Thurm. In June of 2016, Helena Thurm, aged 25, was on her way home from a job interview that would have led to her working in marketing, which was described as her dream career. Thurm was crossing Manchester Road in Altrincham, Greater Manchester, England. Glenn Wall, a man in his early 30s, was done with work for the day and driving home to enjoy a barbecue with his wife. As he approached an intersection, Wall drove straight in a left turn only lane when a traffic light was on amber. In doing so, he plowed into Thurm, killing her. A trial ensued in which Wall placed the blame on the young woman for stepping in front of his vehicle. A judge, however, would conclude that he'd gambled on the amber light instead of stopping at it and, while he hadn't exceeded the speed limit, was driving too fast given the circumstances. Wall was convicted of causing the young job seeker's death by dangerous driving and handed a 2-year prison sentence. Number 4. William Purvis McNeil Jr. In October of 2020, Maryland man William Purvis McNeil Jr. was arrested for abusing a male victim during a fake job interview. 26-year-old McNeil presented himself as the face of a company offering an employment opportunity that was contracted by the government. He used fake profiles and cell phone apps to make it look more realistic. McNeil then took the victim, whose identity wasn't disclosed, to his apartment under the false pretense that he'd be conducting the interview. According to the Baltimore County Police Department, on the first day, he asked his purported applicant to perform push-ups and sit-ups as part of an agility test. He told him that a camera mounted on the ceiling was being used by military personnel to monitor his progress. The following day, McNeil conducted a fake prostate exam and abused the victim while he was in a compromising position. The authorities were contacted, and after McNeil was arrested, he told investigators that his actions were part of his plan to turn straight men gay. His mental health was questioned, but there have been no updates in that regard. It's believed that McNeil had run the scheme in the past, and the police released his mugshot so that other victims could come forward. Number 3. Andrew Jackson. In 2017, a man who sought a position with the Greater Manchester Police in England was arrested and banned from driving after showing up drunk for his interview. As soon as Andrew Jackson, aged 48, began answering the GMP interviewer's questions, a smell of alcohol was noted on his breath. Jackson, of Barlow Moor Road, Didsbury, raised further concerns by mentioning that he'd had trouble parking. The interviewer continued with the questions for about an hour, but before concluding, made an excuse to leave the room and consulted a police officer. When asked if he'd been drinking by a traffic officer, Jackson claimed that he didn't have any alcohol on the day, but that he'd shared a bottle of wine with his wife the previous evening. He was tested with a breathalyzer and proven to be over the limit. Jackson was arrested and charged with drunk driving, to which he'd ultimately plead guilty. He was ordered to pay a fine of $320 and banned from driving for a year. Today's topic was requested by Lenore Dies, Andres, Dominique J, and Samantha Robley. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Alberto Saavedra Lopez. On January the 4th of 2018, Alberto Saavedra Lopez was arrested for felony theft during a job interview with the Cottonwood Police Department in Arizona. 32-year-old Lopez, a former Bank of America worker, had been suspected of stealing $5,000 between July and September of 2016. After the theft was reported, Lopez quit his job and moved to Phoenix. He reportedly refused to cooperate with the authorities investigating the theft incident by missing appointments and not answering his phone. About a year later, Lopez applied for a dispatch job with Cottonwood Police, unaware that probable cause still existed for his arrest. Law enforcement contacted him, set up the interview, and took him into custody upon his arrival. Number 1. James Derek Lovelace. The United States Navy Sea, Air, and Land Teams, commonly referred to as Navy SEALs, is one of the most prominent special operations forces in the world. They carry out sensitive missions, such as intelligence gathering in conflict zones or eliminating high-level targets in virtually any type of environment known to man. Becoming a Navy SEAL is a strenuous endeavor that involves graduating from a 6-month-long training course called Basic Underwater Demolition, or BUDS. It's basically the world's toughest job interview, with a dropout rate of 75%. After a few weeks of intense orientation, candidates go through the even more exerting first phase, which is physical conditioning. It's when most voluntary dropouts occur, as it involves grueling runs, swims, and drills in frigid conditions. The training gets harder as the weeks progress, culminating in the infamous Hell Week, designed to push would-be SEALs to their mental and physical limits. It's during this 4th week that candidates get almost no sleep while doing 20 hours of physical exercise. BUDS is so intense that records from the non-profit Navy SEAL Foundation indicate that since 2013, more SEALs have died in training than in combat. Blackouts routinely occur during drills in swimming pools, as a high level of comfort with water is required for becoming a SEAL, with exercises including being submerged for extended periods of time or swimming with the hands tied and legs tied. On May the 16th of 2016, 21-year-old Seaman James Derek Lovelace died during his first week of training as a result of an evolution during combat swimmer orientation. It involved candidates treading water in full fatigues and boots while wearing a mask filled with water. According to fellow trainees who remained anonymous for fear of retaliation, Lovelace had been bullied by an instructor who'd repeatedly dunked his head underwater, something that's strictly forbidden. His face had reportedly turned purple as he struggled to stay afloat with the instructor pushing him under. Lovelace emerged from the pool conscious, but then became unresponsive and died. A San Diego medical examiner ruled it a drowning homicide, as the actions and inactions of the instructors and other individuals involved were excessive and directly contributed to the death. The Navy carried out its own investigation and cleared the instructor, much to the outrage of Lovelace's family, who stated an intention of pursuing legal action. Thanks for watching. Would you rather interview for your dream job naked or be forced to work in a sweatshop for a year? Let us know in the comments section below.